Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 12 Days of Cortisol Christmas. I am so excited to have Julia Anthony with Solution Medical here with us today, who's going to show us the incredible innovation that's coming to market, the TwistJect. So, Julia, I will let you take it away.
All right. Hello, everybody. Let me just share my screen and then we will get started. Okay, when it looks like you disabled the screen sharing. I can walk through it without the slides, but
we can make it work.
Let me try.
All participants. All right. It should allow you to.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. So my name is Julia Anthony. I am the founder, president, and chief strategy officer for Solution Medical. Now, for those of you who've been following Solution for a while now, you might remember we started out as a medical device company only about 4 years ago. And we have since transitioned into a specialty pharmaceutical company. So I will talk a bit more about what it is we're doing and do a little show and tell, show you our trainer auto injector devices that we have. But if you saw a presentation a few months ago or a couple years ago and you're seeing this one now, you're definitely going to notice a difference in our brand and our logo and our colors, and we're very excited to have recently unveiled our rebranding as a specialty pharmaceutical company, where we are designing treatments to fit your lifestyle instead of you needing to design your lifestyle around the condition that you may have. So here's our team. I will skip this part. Oh, why did it go all the way to the end? Oops, sorry. When you and I were talking about it earlier, so we were at the end. Okay. So as we all know, people who have adrenal insufficiency and are at risk of an adrenal crisis have a standard of care that is currently unacceptable. And it really just isn't suitable to be self-administered outside of a hospital setting. And even in some emergency settings, it is not suitable. So what most people might be familiar with is called the Acto vial. This is the current standard of care, which Solution Medical is looking to improve. Then you also have the Solu-Cortef non-Acto vial version, where you're only given the powder, and you might be given the diluent or the liquid in a whole other chamber that you then need to mix. Oftentimes at pharmacies, you're only given the powder. They forget to give you the liquid, and then you have to go back to the pharmacy and ask them for the other half of your medication. So that's always exciting. And then certain parts of the world, you have Cortisol. This is primarily over in Europe, which involves a glass ampule that needs to be broken. Many steps, many cumbersome and tedious steps, especially if you're having a crisis yourself and you have physical and cognitive impairment, if you will, that makes it difficult to administer your life-saving medication when you're having an adrenal crisis. A few facts from the research that we've done: we estimate there's about 1 million people at diagnosed risk of an adrenal crisis in the United States and Western Europe. We now have over 1,500 data points actually throughout the world regarding the need for this. It's how we've done our pricing and reimbursement studies for the United States. And we are currently doing this in the United Kingdom, and we're about to launch this over in Australia and New Zealand. So we're excited to be expanding our reach when it comes to looking at pricing and reimbursement. But pretty much everyone we've spoken with says that they desire a better solution for adrenal crisis care. And the folks who didn't really have an opinion were folks that had never actually needed to have an injection administered. So they've never experienced the cumbersome current standard of care. Our data also shows that folks who do not get an injection when they're having an adrenal crisis outside of a hospital setting are 3 times more likely to need to go to the hospital and 2 times more likely to end up in the ICU if they're not able to get their injection when they're having an emergency. And that these events lead to, on average, $28,000 per hospitalization event. So fortunately, we've developed a better solution here at Solution Medical, and it's called the TwistJect auto injector. You twist it, so it's pretty simple. That's why we named it this. We have an elegant and ergonomic design that I'll show you in a moment. We've tested our trainer devices here in the United States, doing some human factor studies, as well as over in Ireland, actually, just this fall, in conjunction with the Addison's disease self-help group over there, as well as the Pituitary Foundation out of England and Ireland. We have one-step activation, so I'll show you in a second, but when you twist the cap, that triggers all of the mixing or reconstitution to happen, and then you just jab or stab like you would with an EpiPen or any other auto injector in order to administer the medication. So I mentioned this reconstitution. There is liquid or diluent in our device, as well as powder, but these are stored in separate compartments that are then mixed by the user when you take the cap off. So we have separate chambers for the drug and the diluent, and then we have a third mixing chamber. The needle comes pre-installed. Everything is pre-filled, so you don't have to add any cartridges or attach any needles with lure locks. You simply have to carry the device around with you, and if and when you need it, twist the cap off and you're all set and ready to go. We have visual, mechanical, and audio cues to let you know that you've activated the device, that the medication has been mixed, that all of the medicament has been injected. We very much made sure that the device is not only designed for folks who might need this, but also by folks who need this. So I didn't mention this in the beginning, but my brother and I have salt wasting congenital adrenal hyperplasia. This is why I decided to start this company about 4 years ago. And certainly we haven't only relied on his opinion and mine, but it is through collaborations with Winslow and Adrenal Alternatives, as well as CARES and NADF and Addison's disease self-help group and many other groups that I'll show you later on in the presentation, that we've come up with the design that we have today. And last but certainly not least, we are looking at intramuscular administration. I know there's some papers out there that say that you can inject subcutaneously. Certainly doing sub-Q is better than nothing, but IM or intramuscular is the preferred route of administration. That is what we've designed. So this is 100 milligrams to 2 mLs injected intramuscularly for an adrenal crisis. So with that in mind, Win, I will do some show and tell. And I don't know if you've actually seen the device yet, so I'd love to see your face when I show and tell it. So thank you for turning your camera back on. Now, the one that I'm about to show you now is the design for the 100 milligram to 2 ml dosage. We are actually in parallel designing a smaller version of this right now for pediatrics as well. So we should be able to do the 50 milligram dosage as well as the 25 milligram dosage based on children's or people's ages. But the one I'm going to show you right now is the biggest version. So here is what we have, about the size of an EpiPen to give context. So we have our look-in window up here, which is where you pre-inspect the powder to make sure that it hasn't clumped or discolored or anything like that. Sorry for the contrast with my lights. Then we have what I call this pocket door, and it says 2 mLs on there. So when I twist and remove the cap, you'll notice that that little window moves out of the way. This is to reveal the mixing chamber, and you're able to see that the diluent or the liquid and the powder are mixing in this chamber, and you'll be able to see that the powder is no longer in this chamber. So we're really trying to drive the user's eye down towards this end, which is the action end where the needle sheath is. So this is where the needle lives. It is sheathed. You don't need to attach it. You just twist that cap off like I just showed. And then obviously you would not inject into your hand, but for purposes of right now, this is how we'll do it. So you would do the injection, then the device locks out. So you're only able to do it once. I'm pushing up on it right now. It's not letting me do it again. Now, this one I can reset so that we can keep training and practicing and testing it with folks. But this will be a single-use injection. Right now, all that's taking place in only about 10 seconds. So it's relatively fast, certainly faster than what's currently available out on the market.
That is amazing.
So just thank you, Wynn. We're very excited. It's been a long journey. And these are a few of the other, groups that we work with in addition to Adrenal Alternatives. If you want to check out our new website, because I have a feeling we have a lot of questions, so I'll just jump to that part and get out of the presentation here. You can see some imagery about our device here on the website. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out to us down here at the bottom. But we're very, very excited to have created an international collaboration network of nonprofit organizations for folks at risk of an adrenal crisis, whether it's primary, secondary, or tertiary adrenal insufficiency. I think we're up to about 18 collaborators now that we work with worldwide. Everything from distribution of surveys to running these human factors focus groups, and eventually further away than we all would like, but not too far away, clinical trials. So please, if there are other groups that you think we should be communicating with, let us know. And thank you, Win, for the opportunity to collaborate with Adrenal Alternatives. It's really because we've had feedback from future people who are going to need this throughout this whole journey that we've created such a spectacular device. So with that, that's all I have. I could go through more slides, but I'd love to just chat or answer questions if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Julia, for coming on here and showing us this just amazing innovation. I just want to point out for anybody who does not know, Julia's had this condition her whole life. Okay, she was born with CAH. She saw a problem in the world and she decided she was going to do something about it. And so this device is completely her brainchild, and she has done this incredible, amazing innovation, and we're so grateful. And I just want to stress to you guys how it's amazing, because this is going to change people's lives. And it's going to just revolutionize the way adrenal crises are handled. So I'm going to open up the chat box now, the comments, and see if there are any comments. So either I'm going to look here. So when do you expect this to be released to patients post-trials is the first question.
So we're trying to have this available in the next few years. All of our timelines are moving along as we would expect. We have some typical FDA bottlenecks, if you will, that we have to follow their timelines and we can't expedite it. So we're hoping 2025 this should be available, and we're trying to have it not only be available here in the US, but over in the UK and throughout Europe as well. So we're running these programs in parallel.
Okay. And then the next question is, will this ever be available in South Africa?
I certainly hope so. So one of the things that we're learning, definitely I'm learning as I've gone throughout this process, is that every single, even in the US, every single state, but every single country certainly has different protocols and regulations and how all of this is handled. So we're really doing our best to create a global solution for a global problem. I'm not going to make any promises country by country, state by state, zip code by zip code, because I can't tell the future, but we really, really are trying our best to make this as globally available as possible, which is where a lot of these collaborations with groups around the world. We work with people in Australia. We recently added folks from Slovakia, a nonprofit group in Slovakia, Germany, Italy, Spain, throughout the UK. So it's very important for us to be able to understand how things work in the country where you live to make sure we can design what we have to meet those standards. So feel free to reach out to us to help try to expedite this process, but we're trying our best to make it as globally accessible as possible.
Absolutely. Thank you, Julia. So our next question is, how is the liquid mixed with the medication?
Yeah, I mean, we have patents around all this, so it's the way that our mechanism works. We have a proprietary internal system that keeps the diluent or the liquid separate from the powder, and then when you remove the cap, like I showed on the trainer device, that triggers all of the mixing to happen. It actually is doing it so well that it doesn't even require manual agitation or shaking. So the way that the mechanism is built and the energy that we have in our system, once everything is fired and triggered, mixes itself. We not only have made the device, we actually formulated the drug as well. So it is also because of our drug formulation and how we were able to formulate the particle sizes and whatnot that allows all this to happen. But yeah, it's all proprietary, patented. You can look it up online if you want to. But yeah, it's very nice that you don't actually have to put much thought into anything as the user besides twisting off the cap.
Gotcha. And along those lines, this question is this temperature sensitive like the current Soyu Cortex? So is it temperature sensitive?
It is temperature sensitive. I forget the exact ranges that the FDA requires, but it is not UV sensitive like the current standard is, because the current standard of care is in a glass vial that's completely exposed to the sun, and UV does impact that acto vial, the SoluCortef acto vial. Our vial, if you will, is housed inside of plastic, so it is more resistant and less sensitive to UV or light exposure, but you can't bring it to sub-zero temperatures, and it shouldn't be like out in the desert with you for days and days and days on end. But I forget the exact temperature range off the top of my head.
Okay, and it doesn't need to be refrigerated. I think that was the main point of that. Okay.
And 2-year shelf life.
Gotcha. Okay, and then we had other questions about the clinical trials. So do you know when those will be starting, and how can people participate if they would like?
Yeah, so we should eventually have that information available on our website. Also, I can guarantee you we will be reaching out into the network that I mentioned that we've created. So through UN and through NADF and CARES and other groups. I'm mentioning United States, AI United. I'm mentioning US specific groups right now, but other parts of the world will be reaching out through those groups too for recruitment. They should be happening later next year. Definitely in 2024. So I'm not exactly sure where the start date will be, but it is definitely coming down the pipe.
Okay. And so we have about 5 more minutes with Julia. And so would you mind just showing the device again? Because we've had some comments from people who just joined. So
sure. So here's the trainer device. Sorry, everything's backwards on my screen and my glare is not cooperating. And here's the smaller one that I mentioned. So there is actually a pretty significant difference in size when we're looking at the pediatric version compared to the adult version, or the 50 milligram version to the 100 milligram. You pre-inspect the powder up here. There is a look-in window. My glare is just not cooperating. And then there's this pocket door here. So when you twist that cap off, it reveals the mixing chamber. Twist and pull so the cap comes off, and then obviously you wouldn't inject into your hand, but you have your needle sheath, you do the injection, and then the device locks out so you can't do it again, and that's it. It all takes about 10 seconds right now to activate and do the injection, so about 20 times faster than the current standard of care.
Well, thank you so much, Julia, for all your hard work. And I don't think anybody knows the work and the effort. Not only did you have to create the device, but you had to create the formulation of the medication to go into it. You had to get the funding. I mean, I know that you work endlessly and have really probably since you figured out this was what you wanted to do. So we applaud your efforts. And, I am so appreciative that you partner with organizations like us, because I think, like you said, it's so important that we all come together. And that's the main point that we want to do at Adrenal Alternatives, is we want to offer all cortisol care options to everyone. And you have given us so much hope with your device. So bravo, well done. And I hope many, many more great things to come. So if you guys that are watching are interested in, learning more, go to her website. I will put the links to it once this video posts. And then if you want to know about, the events that are going to be around it, as far as like clinical trials, again, go to her website. And you can also sign up to be on our email list. I email Julia pretty regularly about what's going on. So we will be one of the people that knows about that. And we would love to support her in this future clinical trial. So sign up for our email list and also check out her website. So anything else, Julia?
Just keep the exciting buzz going. Feel free to share and post and repost and ask questions. We'll answer them in as non-confidential and quickly a manner as we can. But when it comes to marketing and whatnot, we're definitely going to have to do a little bit of push, right? But the more of a market pull there is, the more that you all talk about this and share this excitement with your doctors and with each other. And if you're a caregiver to a child, the more that you just have all this excitement and buzz around the fact that this is coming, it'll help it come to market faster when it's ready, rather than have it be ready but need to change the behavior of prescribers or payers. So there's this idea of a market pull and a market push. The more you're able to help us pull it into the market as we keep pushing it, the faster we can get it all to you. So I'll just end with that, Win, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Thank you for that point, Julia. And final closing statement, just like she said, we have had this subpar care long enough. We have not had any updates to our care since 1940. It's time we have these conversations. It's time we're candid with endocrinologists about all the options that are out there. And this is one of them. So like she said, don't be afraid to bring up something that your endocrinologist might know, your primary care physician. That's not being arrogant. That's moving the conversation. Like she said in the beginning, it's unacceptable that this has not been created. And so we're so grateful for her. So we will have much more information as time goes on when this will be rolled out. But like she said, just keep the conversation going. So we thank you so much for attending. And I will put all the corresponding links at the bottom of this video. Thank you.